Hello viewer, thanks for keeping the date with me as promised. In case you're seeing this for the first time, of course it's Africa Diary, a program that brings to you the compendium of events and issues that occurred during the week, and as a content that is refreshing your memory of the weekly African trending issues, it also projects into what's likely going to happen in the weeks to come. So, welcome to Africa Diary once again. As a tradition on the program, I always like to start the program with an inspiring word from the proudly African icons. So this week, I'll say, he who wants to be famous will have many sleepless nights. No matter how long the winter, spring is sure to follow. Africa Diary is the program. So once again, you're welcome. My name is Ajara Tijani. Moving out to the center stage, now to Somalia. Farmajo awards officials who helped domesticate airspace control. Somalia President Mohamed Abdullahi Farmajo has presented medals and certificates of honor to officials and staff who helped restore airspace management to the country.
The president said that domestication of air navigation control was one way of ensuring the country's independence, governance and dignity. Somalia's airspace was controlled by the regional offices of the International Civil Aviation Authority, ICAO, in Nairobi until 2018. ICAO had taken over after Somalia fell among warlords in the early 90s, leaving a vacuum in its airspace controls. The president pointed out that the history of the country will be a golden wing for every citizen who has played a role in restoring the airspace of the country. And future generations will point to the patriotic work they have done for the country and people. The president presented the Minister of Transport and Civil Aviation, Mohamed Abdullahi Salat, with a Medal of Honor and commended the Civil Aviation Authority for leading the country in a short period of time in terms of air traffic management.
Now, welcome back from that report, and we're still in Somalia. If you have been following the trend of the comment of the former Foreign Minister of Somalia about the involvement of Somalia in the decision of the federal government of Ethiopia, you will know that that comment alone actually resulted into removal of the former Prime Minister from office. And this necessitated the swearing in of a new Prime Minister, Foreign Minister, beg your pardon. The new Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Federal Government of Somalia, Abdirazak Mohamed Abubakar, has been sworn in. And as the new appointed Minister of Foreign Affairs, this came after the former occupier of the position was sacked. Let's see the detail of that report.
The swearing-in ceremony took place in Mogadishu and was attended by the Speaker of the Somalia Parliament, Mohammed Mursal Sheikh Abdurrahman, and his first deputy, Abdulwali Sheikh Ibrahim Moudi. Abdurrazak Muhammad Abu Bakr was appointed to the office of the Prime Minister. Roble fired former Foreign Minister Ahmed Ise Awad. Political analysts believe that the Ethiopian crisis affected his job. Although the ministry published a statement on the Ethiopian tension, though the ministry later denounced that statement and said that it doesn't represent Somalia's government views. The takeover comes at a time when the federal government's stance on Ethiopian politics has sparked a controversy that has led to the removal of the former foreign minister.
Welcome back from that report. We're still in Somalia. Of course, expectation of the upcoming election is actually building up, and so much of stories are revolving around the election in this part of the world. Somalia's National Electoral Security Task Force get equipment for upcoming election. The African Union Mission in Somalia, AMISOM, has handed over an assortment of IT equipment to the Somali Police Force, SPF, to help build the capacity of the National Election Security Task Force for the upcoming national elections.
Sir, as we all know, the AMISOM Police...
The National Election Task Force is the highest security organ tasked with security Somalia's upcoming national elections. It is chaired by the Somali Police Force with support from AMISOM Police. Donated by the Danish government, the equipment comprises of multi-biometric scanners, higher-speed laptops, desktop computers, and server racks. Abdul Hassan Mohammed, when he received the donation at a police station within Mogadishu International Airport, the equipment will be distributed to 5 offices across the country to help transmit real-time information with his office in Mogadishu. Deputy Commissioner of Police, DCP Rex Tonton, who presided over the handover ceremony on behalf of the AMISOM Police Commissioner, said that AMISOM Police had identified the need to support the Election Security Task Force with the IT equipment in order to ensure smooth operation and to secure the upcoming elections.
AMISOM Police Component realizes that your office, as the National Election Security Task Force chairperson, you have to have the necessary logistic requirements and support capacity for you to be able to carry out these tasks. And these tasks will ensure you capture, you store, you disseminate operational administrative information to the police operatives during the election.
Dundon further promised that AMISOM Police stands ready to offer support to the National Election Task Force so that it may perform its function efficiently and effectively during the important national election. AMISOM Police is expected to work closely with the Somali Police Task Force to provide security at venues and of election officials during the upcoming national elections to ensure that the process is safe and secure. And much of the tension about the election in Somalia, Somali Prime Minister reiterates free and fair polls. The Somali Prime Minister Mohammed Hussein Roble has repeated the call by his government's commitment to conduct free and fair polls in the upcoming presidential and parliamentary elections.
Speaking during a video conference to the United Nations Security Council, Mr. Roble briefed the Council on the recent developments made towards the achievement of the democratic process in the Horn of African nation. He also assured the realization of the 30% women quota representation to address the concerns of the gender community and said they will prioritize the women's participation in this election. Mohammed Hussein Roble requested the technical support of the international partners in the realization of the significant democratic exercise. Somalia is expected to hold parliamentary election in this year, followed by the presidential election where a number of candidates announced their desire for presidency.
Now, building international relations with Sudan, Somalia vows to help Sudan with debt relief. In a virtual meeting between Somalia's finance minister, the governor of the central bank, and their Sudanese counterparts discussed Somalia's wide experience in debt relief. Somalia vows to help Sudan.
Somalia's Minister of Finance and the Central Bank Governor sharing their experience and knowledge with Sudan officials to reach the status of highly indebted poor country, HIPC, to fast-track the debt they need and get it. On the recommendation and advice from the International Monetary Fund, Sudan sought Somalia's aid in debt relief experience. The Minister of Finance of Somalia confirmed that the country will support Sudan whatever it takes to them. The ongoing finance reform, Somalia has achieved a lot as well as defeated challenges to go through the same process. Sudan and Somalia have close diplomatic relations. Thousands of Somali students travel to Sudan for study, while many Sudanese are in Somalia for different purposes.
Moving on to Ethiopia, of course, what's coming from that region is so much about the tension of the uproar of civil unrest between the federal government of Ethiopia and the Tigrayan people. United Nations chief urges Ethiopia to protect Tigray civilians. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres is deeply concerned about the situation in Ethiopia's Tigray region and support efforts by the African Union to de-escalate the situation, United spokesman Stephanie Jarrick said. Mr. Guterres has also called for protection of civilians ahead of a threat by the Ethiopian army to start an assault on the region's capital, Mekele. We're following reports of the possible military action around Mekele with great alarm. The Secretary General is very concerned about the impact that will have on a civilian population, Mr. Dujarric said.
We're following the reports of a possible military action around Mekele with great alarm. The Secretary General is very, very concerned about the impact that will have on civilian population, on our ability to deliver humanitarian aid in an area where it is also almost impossible to do so. And I must add that we have been in touch, we've been fully supportive of the African Union's leading role in trying to diffuse this situation.
He urges the leaders of Ethiopia to do everything possible to protect civilians, uphold human rights, and ensure humanitarian access for the provision of much-needed assistance. Fighting between Ethiopia's central government and forces in Tigray has been going on for 3 weeks. Hundreds have reportedly been killed and tens of thousands have fled. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has repeatedly said the Ethiopian army will protect civilians in its campaign against forces. Still in Ethiopia, Ethiopia rejects interference in Tigray crisis. Ethiopia Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has asked the international community to stand by until the government of Ethiopia submits its request for assistance in the ongoing Tigray crisis.
However, a key challenge we faced in this regard.
Mr. Abiy warned residents to stay indoors. He said that thousands of Tigrayan forces and militia had surrendered in the last 72 hours, but Tigray officials are yet to respond to the claim. It has been difficult to verify claims from either side because of a communication blackout.
Capturing our soldiers, our commanders, generals, we don't know where they are now. Truly speaking, we don't know. Our commanders, they are in jail. We don't know. Maybe they are not alive.
Mr. Abiy had given Tigray forces a deadline to peacefully surrender, which ended on Wednesday. He rejected international interference in Ethiopia's internal issues and said the Tigray situation will be resolved in accordance to laws and international obligations. The United Nations had asked the Ethiopian government to protect civilians ahead of the assault on Mekele. Now, a report we're getting from Rwanda is on G20 summit. President Kagame says women have been mostly affected by COVID-19 pandemic. On day 2 of the 2020 G20 summit, President Paul Kagame highlighted just how much women have been affected by the effect of the COVID-19 pandemic. The Rwandan head of state represented Nepal at the summit and noted that building a bright future for all, holding no one back requires international cooperation. And with the world still grappling with the COVID-19 pandemic, the African leader pointed out 3 important issues that need to be addressed.
President Paul Kagame highlighted just how much women have been affected by the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. The Rwanda head of state represented NEPAD at the summit and noted that building a bright future for all, holding no one back, requires international cooperation. While the world still grapples with the COVID-19 pandemic, the African leader pointed out three important issues that need to be addressed.
First, on environmental sustainability, perhaps the single most impactful action that can be taken is to fully implement the Kigali Amendment to the Montreal Protocol. By phasing out hydrofluorocarbons, we can prevent 0.5 degrees Celsius of temperature increase by the year 2100. This is what scientists tell us. This represents almost 1/4 of the Paris Agreement target and is an outstanding example of cooperation between the public and private sectors. The Kigali Amendment is now in force and more than 100 countries have already ratified it. I urge the remaining states to ratify as soon as we can. Second, the pandemic has taught us the unacceptable cost of the world's digital divide. Increasingly, access to affordable broadband connectivity is the entry point for education, healthcare, and employment. We appreciate increased G20 support for the goals of the Broadband Commission on Sustainable Development, as well as the United Nations Secretary General's Roadmap for Digital Cooperation. Finally, the pandemic has affected women disproportionately. The burden of caring for sick relatives falls primarily on the women in our families. Women have also been forced to exit formal sector employment to take care of children during lockdown. We cannot continue to accept structural gender disparities as the status quo in a truly inclusive and sustainable future.
Opposition calls for sanctions against Tanzania officials. Tanzania's opposition leader, Tundu Lissu, has urged the international community to impose sanctions against state officials linked to human rights abuses in last month's disputed general elections. President John Magufuli won a second term in the election that was marred with violence and claims of fraud. The United Kingdom and the United States said there had been systemic interference, but the Tanzania's Electoral Commission says there was no fraud. Mr. Lissu, in a tweet, called on the international community to impose targeted sanctions, asset freezes, travel bans and such measures as are necessary to end impunity. The opposition leader fled to Belgium soon after the election, citing threats to his life.
The election were announced. The police protection that I had during the campaign was removed, and immediately I started receiving death threats, at least on 2 occasions. I was called by people who said that the order for them to deal with me once for all, as they put it.
The government said there was no evidence of threat to opposition leaders. Now we are in Uganda. Of course, election of Uganda is around the corner, and so much is going on about the opposition leaders. I'm talking about the most popular of them, the singer Kyangulanyi, Bobi Wine. Of course, Uganda police surround Bobi Wine's hotel. Why was that? Police in Uganda on Wednesday night surrounded a hotel where presidential candidate Robert Kyangulanyi, also known as Bobi Wine, and his campaign team stayed in Hoima town, west of the country. The question here is, the incumbent president, who has been the ruler of the nation since 1986, I bet I was never born, is still contesting again. Maybe this could be the result of the crackdown on most, especially the most opposition leaders. Well, let's get to see the report and leave the doubt out here.
Bobby Wine earlier tweeted that he had to use a long route into the town after the military had blocked him. They have followed us to our hotel and surrounded it, he wrote. Uganda's NTV channel tweeted that the motive for this operation is not yet clear. Bobby Wine shared photos of police outside the hotel. Uganda's Daily Monitor newspaper reported that Bobby Wine had been denied access to an area in the town where he was set to feature as a guest on a radio show. Candidates in January's elections are encouraged to campaign through the media and avoid attracting huge crowds because of coronavirus. Bobby Wine was last week arrested and charged with flouting coronavirus prevention restrictions during a public appearance.
All right, people, this is Africa Diary, and right about now, we are moving to West Africa, and we're picking Guinea as the first port of call. Guinea bans political demonstration citing pandemic. The Guinean government has announced a ban on political demonstrations across the country until further notice, citing the coronavirus pandemic. But the opposition has denounced the move, saying the government is issuing the pandemic to silence opponents of President Alpha Condé.
The ban comes as Alpha Condé's main opposition and leader of the Union of Democratic Forces of Guinea party in the recently held presidential election, Cellou de Leon Diallo, called for a protest to be held on Wednesday over what he terms as an electoral hold-up and arrest of several of its leaders after the election. In a year of tensions caused by the candidacy of President Condé for a third term, authorities have repeatedly banned opposition rallies. They have argued the risk of disorder or the coronavirus. These bans had previously been issued on an ad hoc basis. The government spokesman called it an exceptional measures justified by the state of emergency officially introduced to combat the pandemic. He said the temporary measure will be left when significant progress had been made against the coronavirus. Condé, 82, was declared winner by the Constitutional Court. Diallo, head of the Union of Democratic Forces of Guinea party, claims to be the winner and denounces fraud. In the past, Human Rights Watch has expressed suspicion that the government is using the pandemic as an excuse to repress dissent and violate human rights.
Finally, we are in Nigeria, the Africa's populous nation, and to the harmonious state of all the states of the Federation. Kwara, Governor of Nigeria, present staff of office to traditional rulers. The Kwara State Governor, Nigeria, has presented staff of office to 2 traditional rulers with a charge on them to maintain peace in their respective domains and avoid acts that could lead to breakdown of law and order.
Accordingly, traditional institutions in Nigeria are keys in preserving peace and decorum. To this end, the Kwara State Governor, Abdurrahman Abdurrazak, presented staff of office to the first and second class traditional rulers of Share and Ajara Tijani respectively. In a speech, the governor urged traditional rulers in the state to ensure that peace reign in their domains. As respected fathers, closer to their people, he challenged them to make use of their fatherly role to avoid crisis and breakdown of law and order.
No one is crowned except it is ordained by God. Your Royal Highnesses should therefore be grateful to God for honoring you with the thrones of your forebearers. I urge you to extend the olive branches to all quarters. I urge you to work with everyone under your domain outside of it to promote peace and development. I also appeal to all relevant stakeholders to work with you, the new monarch. Traditional institutions are enablers of cohesion, peace, socio-economic and political development in our society. We therefore appeal to all your Royal Highnesses to join the government's campaign to mobilize the citizenry for peace, unity and development of not just Kwara State, but the country as a whole.
According to the State Commissioner of Local Government and Chieftaincy Affairs, the occasion has been long awaited and call on the new rulers to always mobilize their subjects for government activities, programs and projects to ensure overall development of their communities. Speaking on behalf of the new rulers, the Olupako of Share thanks the governor for the honor and assure of the loyalty of the government at all times. Ensuring the peace and harmony of the state at all times, he added, will be given paramount importance.
We wish to express our profound gratitude to all sons and daughters of our respective homes and communities for propelling the goodwill and legacies of our progenitors. We shall join you in building all the developmental strides initiated by our predecessor. Thank you all for the good work you are doing. We shall lead with the fear of Almighty Allah and be just to all.
The Oba Haruna Olawale Sulaiman is the 11th Olupako appointed in the 11th month of the year, and he is the son of the 9th Olupako of Share, Sulaiman Osman Adegbite, Wakili Pempebiasa, who reigned between May 1955 and January 1967. Thus, the new Olupako is the 8th from Dada ruling house.
People, we hope you like that proverbs that we gave to you. Of course, if you have any proverbs that we've not really featured, this is the right place to feature. Just drop your comments or you write it. You can type it on our Facebook page or on YouTube channel. Africa Diary is the program. Same time, same station next week, God's will. I will be here again for yet another round of the program. Thank you very much for being part of it. My name is Ajara Tijani once again. Bye.